sir.
Okay, fine, fair enough. So let's understand what are the rules and regulations which are applicable to the NBFCs. So the rules regarding the capital requirement is every NBFC shall maintain a capital ratio consisting for tier 1 and tier 2 capital of its aggregate risk weighted assets on the balance sheet and of the risk adjusted value of off balance sheet items which shall not be less than 15%. So they have to satisfy the criteria which is given in tier 1 and tier 2 of capital and, maintenance capital ratio, and it should be of off the balance sheet and on off the balance sheets, on the balance sheet or off the balance sheet items, whatever it would be. So the tier 1 capital in respect of applicable non-banking financial companies other than NBFC of MFI, and that's already we learned, right? Microfinance corporations and infrastructure debt fund at any point in of time shall not be less than 10%. It should not be less than 10%. NBFCs primarily engage in lending against the gold jewelry, as I told you, Muthoot Finance and Manappuram gold loans. And now most of the banks are providing the gold loans. Shall maintain a minimum tier 1 capital of 12%. So उनको लिए 12% की requirement है. Other than that, so lending against the jewelry, it is 12%. Income recognitions. What are the rules and regulations for the income recognitions? That is, the income recognition shall be based on the recognized accounting principles. In case of NPA, means non-performing
सर,
assets. Yes.
इस टॉपिक का नाम क्या है?
Rules and regulations applicable to NBFCs,
ओके सर.
right? So the guidelines, you can say the guidelines to the NBFCs, right? So income recognition shall be based on recognized accounting principles. In case of NPA, non-performing assets, income including interest, discount, higher charges, lease rentals, etc., shall be recognized only when it actually realized. So, and in case of NPA, any income recognized before the assets become NPA and remaining unrealized shall be reversed. Shall be reversed. So it should be, these are what is the requirement about the income recognition. So all the NBFCs has to follow these principles. Asset classification, every NBFC shall, after taking into account the degree of well-defined credit weaknesses and extent of dependence on the collateral security for realization, classify its lease or hire purchase assets, loans and advances, or any other form of credit into the following classes, namely, so obviously they have a well-defined credit weakness systems and extent of dependence on collateral securities of the realization. Collateral security means over and above the basic security that is known as collateral securities. So you generally, suppose if I go for a purchase of a particular plant and machinery, so I have to give, or, for that I don't have the money. So generally, I will hypothecate the plant and machinery to, that is the primary security, and along with I will give the personal guarantees. I will give the guarantees of the third party. So on my behalf, someone else will also gives you the guarantees of the banks before the lending. So that is known as a collateral security for realization. So classify the assets into the standard assets, substandard assets, doubtful assets, and lost assets. So they have to classify the assets based on, and that is to be subject to review. What is standard assets, substandard assets, doubtful assets, and lost assets is already given. And then it will fall into the non-performing assets. All of you generally know the rules for all this. So standard assets, assets in respect of which no default in repayment of principal or payment of interest is pursued, and which does not disclose any problem or carrying on more than the normal risk attached to the business. तो जिसको भी लोन दी गई है, so NBFC ने लोन दी है किसी को, मीन्स द फंड हैज बीन lent by the NBFC, for them it is an asset, क्योंकि उसमें से इनकम जनरेट होने वाली है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. सो ये उसकी बात है. सो NBFC ने जो भी एडवांसेस दिया होगा जिस भी पर्पस के लिए, तो उस जिसको लोन दिया है उसने रीपेमेंट ऑफ प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट और इंटरेस्ट में किसी भी तरह का डिफॉल्ट नहीं किया है, और देयर इज नो पॉसिबिलिटी और देयर इज नो डिस्क्लोजर ऑफ एनी प्रॉब्लम, राइट. तो फिर that asset should be that advances which is lent by the NBFC should be classified as a standard. Substandard assets means an asset which has been classified as NPA for a period not exceeding 12 months for a financial year ending 31st March 2018 and thereafter. So कोई asset थी जो already NPA पे तौर पे उसको classify किया गया था, but that particular है ना advances or lending fund has been NPA for less than 12 months, less than 12 months, not exceeding 12 months means it is less than 12 months. तो उसको भी आप सब स्टैंडर्ड बोल सकते हो, मीन्स किसी ने डिफॉल्ट किया था और इट दैट पर्टिकुलर advances has been classified as an NPA, but then it becomes recoverable and it comes out of the category of an NPA. And assets where the terms of agreement regarding the interest and or the principals have been renegotiated or rescheduled, restructured after a commencement of the operation until the expiry of 1 year of satisfactory performance under the renegotiation or sorry no, renegotiated or rescheduled or restructured terms. तो किसी के पास ऑलरेडी लोन थी, उसने अपनी लोन को रीस्ट्रक्चर करवाई, सो दैट इज ऑल्सो टू बी ट्रीटेड एज सब स्टैंडर्ड एसेट्स. Doubtful, an asset which remains substandard assets for a period exceeding 12 months from the financial ending 31st March 2018 and thereafter. Means you can say from the financial year 17-18, पहली अप्रैल 2017 से लेके आज तारीख तक, है ना, अगर वो 12 महीने से ज्यादा अगर सब स्टैंडर्ड एसेट्स में रही है, so then less than 12 months it would be in substandard assets, and if it is more than 12 months it will move from substandard assets to doubtful assets. And as an auditor I have to see that the NBFC has done so, because it is the principles which is applicable to the NBFCs. Lost assets, and assets identified as lost assets by the applicable applicable non-banking financial companies or its internal or external auditor or by the banks during the inspections of an applicable NBFC, to the extent it is not written off by the applicable NBFCs, and an asset which is adversely affected by a potential threat of non-recoverability due to either the erosions in the value of security or non-availability of the security or due to any fraudulent act or omission on the part of the borrowers. So borrower किसी भी आपको ऐसा लगता है कि now this money is not recoverable along with interest and there is no possibility, then it should be treated as lost assets and it should be recognized. आपने पढ़ा होगा फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर निर्मला सीतारमण जी ने अभी बोला था थोड़े दिन पहले, बजट के एक वीक पहले या 10 या 15 दिन पहले बोला था कि banks have written off their 5 lakh crore rupees in from their books of accounts. So that is 5 lakh crore all over India. All the banks, including NBFCs and everyone, they have write off around 5 lakh crores of the assets as a lost assets. So lost asset हो गई, उसको पैसा recoverable नहीं है. Non-performing assets, very very important. Who should be treated? Which asset should be treated as NPA, right? So there is an asterisk over there, right? So this asterisk you need to understand. So let's understand first. An asset in respect of which the interest has remained overdue for a period of 6 months or more, right? So asterisk है, NBFC covered under the NBFC है ना, SIND taking company and deposits taking companies, Reserve Bank Direction 2016, the period of 6 months or more stipulated in subclauses A to F shall be 3 months or more. So now you do not have to read as 6 months, but it is a 3 months. All of you, I know that all of you know this, right? So it is only 3 months. So an assets, यहाँ पे जो लोन दी जाती है एनबीएफसी के द्वारा बोरोवर को, सो दैट इज एन एसेट्स, क्योंकि उसके ऊपर उनको इंटरेस्ट मिलता है, उनके लिए वो एसेट्स है। बैंक के लिए एसेट्स है और नॉन बैंकिंग फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन के लिए जो लोन दी है दैट इज अ एसेट्स। इसीलिए आप सबको भी कॉल आते होंगे कि आप लोन ले लीजिए, है ना। मुझे रोज के 3-4 कॉल आते हैं, सर यू वी हैव अप्रूव्ड अ प्री अप्रूव्ड लोन फॉर यू एंड सो आप 5 लाख की लोन लीजिए, 2 लाख की लोन ले लीजिए, राइट। क्यों? क्योंकि वो उनको लोन देने में इंटरेस्ट है, क्योंकि उनके ऊपर तो उनको इंटरेस्ट मिलने वाला है। सो दैट इज एन इनकम फ्रॉम देम, सो देयर इज अ बिजनेस फॉर देम। सो वो बोलते रहेंगे। लेकिन अगर कोई ऐसी एसेट्स है in respect of which the interest has remained overdue for a period of 3 months or more, term loan inclusive of unpaid interest where the installment is overdue for a period of 3 months or more, or on which the interest amount remained overdue for a period of 3 months or more. A demand or call loan, a demand or call loan which remained overdue for a period of 3 months from the date of demand or call, or on which the interest amount remained overdue for a period of 3 months or more. A bill which remain overdue for a period of 3 months or more. So bills receivable भी है, bills. So this all will become. So NPA के criteria बहुत ही simple है, आप सब लोग जानते हो, right? So any portion of interest or installment amount which is outstanding for a period of more than 3 months, 3 months or more than 3 months, that asset should be classified as NPA. The interest in respect of debt or income on receivable under the head other current assets in the nature of short-term loans, advances, which facilitates remain overdue for a period of 3 months or more. Any due on account of sale of assets, services rendered, or reimbursement of expenses incurred, which remained overdue for a period of 3 months or more. So अगर बैंकिंग जो भी अदर एनबीएफसी अदर सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड कर रही है, सेल ऑफ एसेट्स है, सर्विसेज है, उसका पैसा भी अगर है ना 3 महीने से ज्यादा आउटस्टैंडिंग रहता है, ओवरड्यू रहता है, then that particular asset should be classified as NPA. A lease rental or hire purchase installment which है ना has become overdue for a period of 12 months or more, then there is a double asterisk. That for double asterisk, this is the other day, right? So there also it has been reduced from 12 months to 3 months. So everywhere you have to only remember 3 months or more. Actually, it is a 90 days criteria. So instead of 12 months, you have to take into consideration the 3 months or more. In respect of loans or advances or other credit facilities, including the bills purchased or discounted, outstanding balance outstanding under the credit facilities, including the accrued interest on it, made available to the same borrower beneficiary when they any of the above credit facility becomes the non-performing asset. अगर किसी के एक एंटिटी है जिसने गोल्ड लोन भी ली है और उसने वर्किंग कैपिटल लोन भी ली है, वर्किंग कैपिटल लोन इज थ्रू यू नो hypothecation of stock and debtors, so they have overdue for more than 3 months. As far as the gold loan is that there is no default in the 3 months, but as one of the loan becomes the NPA, other loan is also to be required to be classified as a NPA. Is it clear with dear students? समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
है ना?
Yes, sir.
All of you have learned this under advanced accounting paper of semester 6 of TY BCom, राइट? वहां पे आपने वो पढ़ा होगा, लेकिन वो बैंक्स के बारे में था, ये एनबीएफसी के बारे में, हालांकि दोनों की जगह पे सब कुछ सेम ही है, so there is no difference, right? Provisioning requirements, standard assets. Every applicable NBFC shall make provisions for the standard assets at 0.1% by the end of the March 2018 and thereafter of the outstanding, which shall not be reckoned for arriving at the net NPA. So 0.1% काफी कम है, तो उतना प्रोविजनिंग स्टैंडर्ड एसेट्स के लिए करना चाहिए बिकॉज ऑफ एनी
0.40 है सर.
0.40% है, हाँ, यस, यू आर राइट एक्चुअली. it is 0.40% है, or that is actually the correct, not 0.1%. Yes, you are right. I am able to recall it. Anyway, so please, it is not 0.1%, it is 0.40%. The provisioning towards the standard assets need not be netted from the gross advances, but shall be shown separately as contingent provisions against the standard assets in the balance sheets. आपको actually net नहीं करना है इसको, as a contingent provisioning है. Provision be contingent in nature, ये होगा ही होगा, because the asset is standards. There is no default on repayment of principal amount of or interest. So there is no default. So this is contingent provisioning against the standard assets. Then substandard assets, general provision of 10% of the total outstanding shall be made. 10% of the substandard assets is required to make the provision. What is the problem of this? Everything will hit the profit and loss accounts of the NBFC, and their profit will be lower by that amount. Doubtful assets, unsecured portion. So in doubtful assets where there is a security is available, the provisioning is up to as per this table. Whereas there is a unsecured portion, means at the time of lending the assets, or sorry, at the time of lending the funds, whatever the securities you have obtained at that moment of it may be a secured, but later on the value of that security has been reduced. In that circumstance, it becomes a unsecured up to that extent. So in that circumstance, 100% to the extent to which the advance is not covered by the realizable value of security, right? So suppose NBFC has lent a loan of rupees 1 crore, and for that they have taken a house as a security, or a particular land as a security. And at that moment of time when lending the fund of 1 crore rupees, the value of land is around, suppose 2 crore. And then later on, because of some events around the atmospheres, or maybe the environmental deterioration in that particular area, if the value of land becomes an 80 lakhs, right? So earlier it was of a 1.5 crore or maybe 2 crore, it is reduced to 80 lakhs, whereas the advances is given is 1 crore. So the short is 20 lakhs. So 20 lakhs, 100% provisioning is required, because that becomes unsecured up to that extent. Secured portion, period for which the asset has become considered as doubtful. So doubtful है तो percentage यहाँ पे दिए 20%, 30% और 50%. Up to 1 year 20%, 1 to 3 years 30%, and more than 3 years 50%. Lost asset obviously 100%. Already lost asset है तो उसका तो आपको 100% provisioning करना पड़ेगा. Am I right, dear students? समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
I think it is same which you have learned in TYBCom. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
तो अच्छा है ये 40%. वहां पे भी 40% ही है. ये जो प्रोविजनिंग नॉर्म्स है 0.40%. 0.40% वहां पे भी वही है, राइट? और यहाँ सब सेम है. सो इट इज रिपीटेटिव इन नेचर, राइट? देन ascertaining of the business, है ना? This topic of what are the structure, actually अगर आपको लिखना हो तो what is the structure of NBFCs, and how they are managed, right? So the structure of NBFCs. So as it is not visible, right? आप visible नहीं कर सकते, मैं कितना भी बड़ा कर लूँ दिख नहीं पाओगे कि क्या है, but it is a structure of the NBFCs, right? So let's start with ascertaining the business. To ascertain the business of the company, auditor is required to study the following: memorandum and articles of association, because it is a company. NBFC means non-banking financial company. So it's a company. So obviously memorandum of association and articles of association you have to study. Business policy of the company, minutes of the board of directors and the committee meetings, any kind of committee which is constituted by the board of directors, the minutes of everything you have to understand. Evaluation of the internal control system. So how, है ना, the structure or audit of the NBFCs, है ना? तो अगर आपको वो करना हो तो आप यहाँ पे लिख लीजिएगा, right? Evaluation of the internal control system. Again, the auditor will evaluate the internal control system of the NBFCs. The auditor is required to evaluate the internal control system prevailing in the NBFC to ensure that internal underlined it adequate and are being effectively followed. So whatever the rules and regulations or the business policy which is adopted by the NCV is adequate. Adequate means it is reasonable in compliance with all the requirements which is applicable to the NBFC. That is known as adequate. And it is effectively implemented. That is to be required to be reviewed by the auditor. Auditor is required in particular to review the effectiveness of the system of recovery and periodical review of advances, because any deficiency in these systems may result in high level of NPAs, non-performing assets. So अगर ये इंटरनल कंट्रोल सिस्टम अच्छी तरीके से नहीं की गई है, सिस्टम ऑफ रिकवरी अगर अच्छी तरीके से नहीं है, देन ऑब्वियसली मनी जिसको लेंड किया गया है वो डिफॉल्ट करेंगे और बहुत सारा पैसा आपको मिलेगा नहीं, एंड अल्टीमेटली देयर विल बी अ ह्यूज लॉस टू द एनबीएफसी. Registration with the RBI, auditor should obtain a copy of the certificate of registration granted by the RBI, and or in case the registration has not been granted, a copy of application form filed with the RBI needs to be obtained. तो अगर किसी को एज आरबीआई में रजिस्टर करना है, उन लोगों ने एप्लीकेशन कर दिया लेकिन आरबीआई ने अभी तक रिजेक्ट भी नहीं किया है और एप्लीकेशन को एक्सेप्ट भी नहीं किया, तो आप एप्लीकेशन कॉपी को है ना वेरीफाई कर सकते हो. Compliance of public deposit directives है ना. So whatever the public deposit अगर accept किए तो उसके जो भी compliances है वो किया है कि नहीं है. Credit rating. Obtain a copy of the credit rating assigned to the NBFC and check whether the public deposit accepted or held by the NBFC are in accordance with the level of credit rating assigned to it. Assigned to NBFC. It means NBFC. So NBFC जो भी है उसको कौन सा क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसी, क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसी इज मैंडेटरी, तो उस हिसाब से ही उन लोगों ने पब्लिक डिपॉजिट एक्सेप्ट किए, राइट. इन द इवेंट ऑफ अपग्रेडिंग और डाउनग्रेडिंग ऑफ द क्रेडिट रेटिंग, द ऑडिटर शुड bear in mind that the NBFC will have to increase or decrease its public deposit in accordance with the revised credit rating assigned to NBFC within a specified time frame, and should ensure that the NBFCs have informed about the same to the RBI in writings. So these are the conditions. तो जब भी credit rating either upgrade होता है, तो you can also increase the public deposit if the NBFC wants. And if the credit rating is downward, so earlier it was a 5 है ना, A+ credit rating है, फिर उसमें से A+ में से A++ कर दिया है, so credit rating has been upgraded, then they can accept more amount of public deposit because there is a sufficient securities available to the depositors, so they can increase if they want. But if the credit rating downgrades means it is earlier they want the NBFC is enjoying a A+ rating, now it becomes only A, right? So in that circumstances they have to reduce the public deposit, means they have to, whatever the public deposit they have accepted, they have to return it back as per the directives, right, or revised credit assignment. In the event of downgrading of the credit rating below the minimum specified investment grade, a NBFC being an investment and credit company or a factor company shall regularize the excess deposit as provided hereunder. With immediate effect, stop accepting the fresh deposits और renewing the existing deposit. तो एक तो वो नई डिपॉजिट एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर सकते और जो existing है उसको renew भी नहीं कर सकते. All existing deposits shall run off to the maturity. जो भी existing deposit है उसको आप है ना मेच्योरिटी तक रन कर सकते हो, अपने पास रख सकते हो, लेकिन रिन्यू नहीं कर सकते, तो ऑटोमेटिक वो आपकी लिमिट के अंदर आ जाएगा. Report the position within 15 days to the concerned regional office of the RBI where the NBFC is registered. और वो जहाँ पे रजिस्टर्ड है वहाँ पे 15 दिन के अंदर उनको ये इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोवाइड कर देनी है. इंटरेस्ट एंड ब्रोकरेज पेमेंट. डियर स्टूडेंट, समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Interest and brokerage payment. Test check the interest and brokerage calculations to ascertain that the NBFC has not paid in excess. So whatever the deposit they have accepted, they are paying the interest on it, and the brokerage should be appropriately paid and it should not be overpaid. Written applications. Examine whether the NBFC has accepted or renewed any public deposit only after a written application form of the depositor in the specified form. Obviously, nowadays it may be in electronic. Written application can not, it doesn't mean it is in hard copy. It can be in electronic mode, right? But it should be approved by the depositors. Then only they can accept the deposits. Deposit registered, very, very important. They have to maintain, verify the deposit registered maintained by the NBFC and test check the particulars that have been entered therein in respect of each depositor with the supporting receipts issued to the depositors. तो एनबीएफसी को जो भी पब्लिक डिपॉजिट एक्सेप्ट की है उसका रजिस्टर मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा, उसके अंदर हर एक का जो ईच डिपॉजिटर है उसका सपोर्टिंग डॉक्यूमेंट भी होना चाहिए। मींस ओरिजिनल रिसिप्ट आपने डिपॉजिटर को इश्यू की होगी, डुप्लीकेट कॉपी आपके पास होनी चाहिए। रीपेमेंट ऑफ डिपॉजिट, ये भी अच्छी तरीके से इंश्योर करना है। चेक वेदर द एनबीएफसी इज रेगुलरली पेइंग इट्स डिपॉजिट्स ऑन द ड्यू डेट। सो जो भी ड्यू डेट है, उस जहां पे भी डिपॉजिट की मैच्योरिटी आती है डिपॉजिट्स की, तो इट शुड बी पेड, है ना, ऑन द डिपॉजिट डेट एंड देयर शुड नॉट बी एनी डिले। Custody of investment, check whether the investment made in approved liquid assets have been launched in the safe custody with the designated bank. Obtain a certificate from the bank to that effect, है ना। तो उनके पास जो भी एक्स्ट्रा फंड पड़ा हुआ है, वो अगर वो इन्वेस्टमेंट करते हैं तो वो अप्रूव्ड लिक्विड एसेट्स में ही होना चाहिए और उसकी सेफ कस्टडी बैंक में होनी चाहिए। Submission of accounts, ascertain whether the audited statement of accounts together with the copy of the auditor's report and director's report thereon have been submitted within a prescribed time limit from the date of holding the AGM. Generally it is 21 days. It is not mentioned over here, but generally whenever the AGM is conducted, 21 days clear notice is given to the shareholders, and whenever the notice is served to the shareholders for AGM, along with that the submission of the account should be provided along with the auditor's reports and director's report. Filing of annual return, check whether the NBFC has filed its annual return in a specified time. तो उन्होंने अपना return annually file किया है. Board resolution in case of non-acceptance of public deposits. In case NBFC is not accepting or holding public deposit, check whether the board resolution has been passed by the NBFC to effect that it has neither accepted any public deposit nor would it accept any public deposit during the year. तो अगर वो पब्लिक पास से डिपॉजिट नहीं लेते हैं, then there should be a board resolution in this regards. Then compliance of the prudential norms by the NBFC which are applicable. These all are the prudential norms which are applicable to the NBFC, and it should be duly complied with. Prudential norms, the auditor has. Yes beta.
सर ये 9 पॉइंट समझ में नहीं आया।
9th point. Okay, there are certain NBFCs, those who are not accepting the public deposit. Suppose the promoters of the NBS have a sufficient fund, so they infuse the capital into the NBFCs and they are not accepting any deposits, and whatever the funds the promoters have while constituting the NBFC, they are using for the lending purpose. So they are actually not accepting the public deposit. So as an auditor, दिस टॉपिक इज ऑडिट ऑफ एनबीएफसी, तो एज ऑडिटर मैं उनके पास से ऐसा बोर्ड रिजोल्यूशन मांग लूंगा जो पब्लिक के पास से डिपॉजिट एक्सेप्ट नहीं करती है। इज इट क्लियर? और शैल आई गिव यू एन एग्जांपल? Oh, silence is there, so let me give you the example. Suppose I have a 1000 crore rupees. I have myself, मेरे पास है नहीं, लेकिन हम मान लेते हैं कि if I have a 1000 crores of rupees, so I constitute I instead of establishing a bank, I created an NBFC, And in NBFC, while creating a NBFC means I have registered a company and the principal business is accepting a deposit, but I am not accepting the deposit, but my prime objective is lending of the fund. तो मैं फंड को लेंड करता हूँ. सो मेरे पास जो 1000 रुपीज करोड़ है एज ए मैंने कॉर्पस कैपिटल रखा, वो मेरे पास, और मैंने उसको इन्वेस्टमेंट करके रखा कहीं पे भी, राइट. Or I am, whatever the people are coming to me for the who requires the fund, I am lending the fund to them. ठीक है. तो आरबीआई में मैं एनबीएफसी हूँ, एनबीएफसी तरह के मैं रजिस्टर्ड हुआ हूँ, लेकिन मैं लोगों के पास से पब्लिक डिपॉजिट एक्सेप्ट करता नहीं हूँ. अगर ऐसा है तो बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर का रिजोल्यूशन चाहिए. इज इट क्लियर?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Compliances of prudential norms by NBFC. Prudence norms, the auditor has to verify the compliance of the prudence norms relating to the income recognition, income from investment, assets classification, provisioning for bad and doubtful debts. ये हमने ऊपर सब पढ़ा है, right? Income recognitions, income from investment, asset classification means standard, substandard, doubtful or lost. Provisioning for bad and doubtful debts means 0.40%, 10%, right? And then 20%, doubtful के अंदर अगर up to 1 year, then 30%, 50%, and in case of loss, 100%. Capital adequacy norms, right? Capital adequacy norms, prohibitions for granting of loan against its own shares. They cannot, grant the loan against their own shares. Prohibitions on loan and investment for failure to repay the public deposits, and the norms for the concentrations of credit. So these all are the norms and prudential norms which the NBFC has to mandatorily comply. Policy for demand loans. Right? The auditor shall ensure that the board of NBFC shall frame a policy for granting the demand and call loans and implement the same. तो उनको अगर डिमांड लोन्स ग्रांट करनी है, डिमांड लोन मींस व्हिच कैन बी रीपेबल एट एनी मोमेंट ऑफ टाइम, तो वो किसी को लोन देते हैं और उनके पास से इमीडिएटली डिमांड भी कर सकते हैं. दैट इज नोन एज अ डिमांड लोन. Classification of advances. The auditor should verify the classification of advances and the loans as standard, substandard, doubtful, or lost, and that the proper provisioning has been made in accordance with the direction. So ऊपर हमने पढ़ा है, उस हिसाब से आपको करना है. Income from NPA, the already asset which is classified as NPA, उसमें क्या करेंगे? The auditor should ensure that the unrealized income from the non-performing assets has not been taken to the profit and loss accounts. Obviously, profit or loss account में जो unrealized income है वो जानी चाहिए नहीं. Unrealized NPA means interest is an income which is recognized in the profit and loss account. But if the particular asset is become NPA and that interest portion has not been received, suppose I give you a simple example. One asset, one loan is given, housing loan, which is of 25 lakhs, है ना. तो किसी एक बोरोवर था जिसको हाउसिंग लोन दी गई और हाउसिंग लोन के दरमियान उसको ये बोला गया कि आपको 25 लाख की लोन है और आपको अगले 10 साल में उसको रिपेमेंट करना है, और 10 साल के अंदर अगर 10 साल तक लोन आउटस्टैंडिंग रही तो लोन के ऊपर आपको तकरीबन 12 लाख एज ए इंटरेस्ट पेड करना है. सो 25 लाख की लोन है और उसके ऊपर 10 साल के बाद जब जो भी इंस्टॉलमेंट आएगा तो उसके अंदर टोटल 12 लाख का इंटरेस्ट आएगा. सो टोटल रीपेमेंट अमाउंट इज 37 लाख, राइट. अभी 3 साल हो गए और मान लेते कि 6 लाख का इंटरेस्ट रिकवर हो गया विद प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट, और 6 साल के बाद आपको एसेट्स के पैसे मिल गए सपोज के 15 लाख रुपए प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट मिल गया है और इंटरेस्ट के 12 लाख में से 6 लाख मिल गए, एंड देन दैट एसेट बिकम एन एनपीए. वो बोरोवर ने पैसा पेमेंट करना बंद कर दिया. सो यू कैन नॉट रिकॉग्नाइज द इंटरेस्ट इनकम रिमेनिंग. टोटल 12 लाख की इनकम होने वाली थी 10 साल में, 6 साल में 6 लाख का इंटरेस्ट, तो 6 लाख प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट में जाएगा, बाकी का 4 लाख नहीं जाएगा बिकॉज नाउ दैट एसेट बिकम्स एनपीए, राइट. हाँ, अगर उनको उसमें से आपको ऐसा लगता है कि बाकी का जो प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट है, प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट 25 लाख में से 15 लाख आ चुका है, 10 लाख इज आउटस्टैंडिंग, लेकिन बोरोवर वो 10 लाख दे देगा. उनके पास एनपीए बना है लेकिन उसके पास से वो उसने जो सिक्योरिटी दी है उससे वो रिकवर हो जाएगा. लेकिन 12 लाख के इंटरेस्ट में से 6 लाख का इंटरेस्ट आया है, तो अभी भी 6 लाख का इंटरेस्ट पेंडिंग है, लेकिन वो इंटरेस्ट आपको 6 लाख में से 3 लाख मिलने वाला है। 3 लाख नहीं मिलेगा बिकॉज ऑफ दी नॉट सफिशिएंट सिक्योरिटीज अवेलेबल विद द एनबीएफसी। तो 3 लाख का इंटरेस्ट को आपको रिकॉग्नाइज करना है, 3 लाख के इंटरेस्ट को रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं करना है बिकॉज इट इज अनरिकवरेबल, अनरियलाइज्ड। इज इट क्लियर टू ऑल ऑफ यू?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Recovery in NPA accounts. The auditor should check all the NPAs of the previous year to verify whether during the current year any payment have been received or still they continue to be NPA during the current year also. तो वो भी आपको NPA के बारे में भी सोचना है। Is it clear? यहाँ तक फिर आज के दिन रखते हैं. Then this master direction we will learn tomorrow. Is it clear?
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
फाइन।
Yes,
सो
sir.
आज के दिन इतना रखता है। कल हमारा यूनिट नंबर 4 कंप्लीट हो जाएगा एंड देन विल स्टार्ट विद द यूनिट नंबर 3, राइट? एंड फ्रॉम बैकवर्ड ऑनवर्ड्स विल स्टार्ट। So I think we will be able to complete the syllabus on a timely basis before 10th of February.